Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our tutorial today, which is on assignment 11. This is on dry collections. So it seems like there's not many people who are struggling with the assignment or not many people who are going to do the assignment. But I see we have Mashlori from Ditsong and Sifiso, who's now at Moss Herbarium, Sanela Siwe from KZN Herbarium, and Anri, I think, from Compton. Yes, okay. So 3 herbarium people and 1 animal. And then we've got Mzwai from Saib. So I think they do have some dry, they've got some skeletal components of fish there. All right, so I'm assuming that all of you are doing assignment 11. And let me just share my screen so we can just check on what everybody's working on. So for this assignment, there is a choice. And if you really wanted to, you could do both options. So you'll remember, or you might have seen in the guidelines for the portfolio that you have to submit for the course, that you have to submit 10 assignments. And so if you were really struggling with the others and didn't want to do some of those, you could submit the 2 options as assignments. So the first option is the assessment of the current state of care of a dry collection. So this can be anything. It can be an insect collection, herbarium collection, mammal or bird skins, mollusk shells, bones, or skulls. So anything that's dry. And what you need to do is to complete the Excel spreadsheet. So there's a template that needs to be completed, and that's all you need to do. It is pointed out here that there's quite a lot of information that's needed in this template that was already done for assignment 9. That was the collection storage and organization assignment. So you can just take quite a lot of the information from that assignment for this one. So the important thing is to try and complete as many of the sections, or to work through all the sections in that template. So we'll look at that in a minute. The other option was to develop an integrated pest management plan for a dry collection. So we did do quite a lot of discussion. Obviously, pests, insect pests, are one of the biggest risks to dry collections. So if you work in a herbarium, that's probably, apart from fire, the biggest thing is to, if you have a pest infestation, you don't pick it up and you don't deal with it, you can lose some or even quite a lot of that collection. And you know, there's a global move away from just getting everything fumigated all the time because of the health risks, the environmental risks, and even the cost as well. It's very expensive to have professional fumigation. And if you do it on your own, if you just use your own systems, it's high risk to start. That's why globally there's a big move in collections and in museums away from that kind of put mothballs, use doom foggers, get the pesticide company, just put pesticides everywhere, and moving towards a system where you try and prevent rather than just treating with pesticides. So this is to develop a plan for integrated pest management, and we'll look at some of the options for that. Now, I don't know if anybody's interested in doing this. It will take quite a lot of investigation and thinking about how to tackle it for your collection. But we'll come back to that. So I'm assuming that all of you who are here are going to do or have done one of these options. Made a start at least, maybe you finished. So let's just see. So Mashlodi, are you doing one or you started?
Good morning, Michelle. I am going to be doing option 1, the assessment of the collection. I'm doing the birds collection. So yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, so I think that's a very good place for you to start as a new staff member there, to just do that assessment and identify where the challenges are. Safiso, I don't know, did you do this when you were at Buestel?
Good morning, Michelle. Not exactly. I think I'll try and take the option 2 because I've discussed it with Renee in a few days and said, yeah, maybe she can help me with that so that we can see how we tackle our pest control in this area, especially that there is animal collection as well. So just to see how we can deal with that as well.
Okay, all right, great. So you your new herbarium and animal collection as well. Okay, great. Yeah, because there will be there are insects there, I remember.
Yes, yes.
So not insect pest, insect collection. Okay, and Sanela Siwe, what are you going to do one of the options?
We did the first option, Michelle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So the assessment, all right, great.
Yeah, but I do know that Mr. Gwenya is looking into the IPM plan. I'm not even sure if I'm on that team. I probably am, but yeah, I'd be keen for any information that you'd want to share regarding that, because I don't know if you remember from the video, we have quite the pest problem and it has been expensive, and we have been trying to fumigate more and it's not necessarily helping.
Okay, all right, good. Henry, which one are you looking at doing? The Compton? Do you not have a mark? All right, okay. All right, so you can just type in the chat which assignment you're thinking of doing. You're doing option 1, all right, good, on the herbarium, Compton herbarium. Uzwai, which one are you thinking of doing? I don't know if you've also got microphone issues. You can put it in the chat. Rendani, which one are you planning to do?
I've done option 1.
Oh, you've done option 1. Okay. All
yes.
Right, good. Okay, great. So most people seem to be doing option 1, but with maybe some interest in option 2. So let's just have a look at what needs to be done for option 1. So this assessment, so if you were at the tutorial yesterday, we looked at the assessment for a wet collection. Some of it's similar, but obviously the risks for a dry and a wet collection are quite different. And that means that the questions are a bit different, but some of them are the same. So, and like I said, some of these you can just pull from assignment 9 if you did that one. But the important thing is that every block should have something in it, even if it's, you know, like here I said, so under temperature control, we don't have, I'll just make this collection up. Okay, so what I said was that you need to put something in every block, even if the, so for example, this one asks about temperature control, and if you've got no temperature control, you say in the description, we've got nothing. And then under quantities, how many, say 0. Don't leave blocks blank, because then it's difficult to know whether you've just forgotten to put something in there or if it really is nothing. So rather just say nothing, 0. And then notes, any challenges. So this is basically the story, your story about temperature control. So you might say something like, we don't have climate control, but the building and storeroom stay quite cool. but it's cold in winter and on very hot days a bit warmer. So what that story is that the temperature fluctuations, and you remember that's not good for dry collections. And then in your needs, so this is what's needed to meet the standard. So the standard is that temperature should be set between 8, I can't remember, I think I have it here, and it doesn't have it here, but it's between, I think, 16 and 20 degrees. It has to stay stable. And so you have to have a climate control system. So whether that's air conditioners or something else, you need to have that. And it's the same, you'll think through humidity. So do you have a humidity control system? Do you have dehumidifiers? So often people say, well, it's a dry climate. We don't really have a humidity problem. But are you sure about that? So have you checked humidity levels? Do you monitor them? Do you ever see moisture after rain? Is there some kind of moisture? And maybe you do need dehumidifiers. I know the ARC, we've just given them some funding to buy them. So even in Pretoria, that was in their Pretoria offices, they just may have a bit of humidity, and that can be enough to allow mold to develop. And obviously mold for dry collections is just almost as bad as insect pests. It's a big risk. And then your fire suppression system. So do you have a fire detection and suppression system? What is it? It might just be fire extinguisher. So put what you've actually got, even if it's very little. If there's nothing in the storeroom, you can say nothing in the storeroom, but maybe there are fire extinguishers in the corridor. And then tell the story about that. Well, we've got fire extinguishers, they're serviced every year. That's all we've got. And then what do you need to meet the standard? So every collection storeroom should have a fire detection and an appropriate fire suppression system. So you need to get that. So we're not looking at whether it's possible to get it. It's just, what do you need? So you put down what you need, not what you think you can afford. Okay, the fire doors, you have proper fire doors. Is there a fireproof entrance door? So at least the entrance door should be fireproof. Your electrical plugs. So this is not that serious for a dry collection if there's no ethanol specimens in the storeroom or anywhere near that storeroom. So, you know, with the wet collections, there are vapors from the ethanol and they accumulate. And then when you working with electricity, it can spark and create an explosion. It's not the same level of risk with a dry collection. So like what I've said here, the electrical sockets, they're at floor level. We use them for plugging the microscope in or plugging the laptop. But we don't think it's a big risk. And the same, the light switch for a wet collection should be outside the room. It's not that serious if there's no vapor buildup for a dry collection. Ventilation system. So do you have a ventilation system like an air extraction system in there? Again, it's more serious if you've got a wet collection where vapors build up. You want that vapors to be extracted. With a dry collection, it's not that serious. But this becomes serious. So if you open your windows to get fresh air in, like after fumigation, then that is serious because then you're allowing pests in. So if you don't ever have to open your windows, then it's fine. But if you're opening your windows to get air in, then you probably need a ventilation system. Well-sealed windows and doors. This is very important for dust and also for pests. So check your windows. So close them and see if you can feel any draft coming through there. If you can see any dust build up on the windowsill, then you'll know that it's not 100% sealed, that things can get through, dust can get through. check your door. Has it got some kind of a flap or something on the bottom? Or is there a gap? And can you see through the bottom of the door? Because that means, again, dust is going to blow in there, pests can come in there. So go and check your windows when they're closed, check your door and see if there's any kind of gap around it. And then sources of pests. So have a look around the storeroom. So for this assignment, you're not doing the whole building, which makes it a bit difficult. You're doing your one dry collection. And you need to look around it. So not just in the storeroom, but around it. So where could pests come from in that storeroom? You know, are there bird nests on the outside? So I know a common problem is to have pigeon nests and pigeon droppings on the ledges, the window ledges outside the storeroom. That's a definite source of pests. You might have people who sit and work in the storeroom. You might have overhanging branches and trees very close to the windows, and pests can come in from there. So just have a look around outside the storeroom and see where you think pests, insect pests might come from. And then, you know, so there may be things in the corridor. So are there old boxes and accumulated stuff? Do you have things like that outside the storeroom? I know that's quite a common problem. Everybody's got things that they want to get rid of, broken things, but with the asset management, you can't just throw things away. And they pile up and they create very good habitats for insects. So have a look around and see and document all of those sources. I've just put one. But if there's many, then put them all down. Do you have carpets in the storeroom, in the collection storeroom? So I think that's quite rare, but you might have a little office space in the storeroom and there may be carpet there, and carpets are a very good breeding place for pests. And then your windows, so you don't want light coming in. Are there windows? What kind of covering do they have? Often there'll be curtains and they don't hang properly and they don't close properly and they've got 10 years of dust. So document that. Just be honest. That's your assessment. And what you might need is to replace with blinds, with blockout blinds. And then also for dry collections, what's a big risk is flooding. Water damage is a big issue. So is there any risk of flooding? Are there any water pipes? Do you have any sinks that you use for the collection or for something else in that storeroom? You know, there can be a drain that blocks and you get flooding or back flooding from it. Yeah, so look at any potential for flooding, for water damage to that collection. And then space, you need a good working space. You take drawers or specimens out of cabinets, and you need somewhere to put them on while you're checking them or doing something with them. So is there that kind of space? Can you easily move between the cabinets? Check that. And then is there office space in the collection storeroom? So I think in quite a lot of institutions, there may be a little dedicated office space, but it's still inside the storeroom. And that brings a whole lot of risks. Are there people basically working, moving around, eating their lunch, bringing their bags in every day to the storeroom? So document what it is, how many people, if there are people in there, how many are in there, do they sit there all day, or what do they do there? So for my example, I use this. I said there's a technician who uses this little space as office space, as workspace, processing incoming material, packaging loans, storage of collection consumables and packaging materials. So everything to do with the collection is done in this little dedicated office space, and someone sits there all day, every day. And the need, so to meet the standard, is that you won't have people sitting, working all day. That's the office. You won't have that. And that you won't have consumables stored in the collection storeroom. So to meet the standards, you have to look at options to move that person out. And they can work there when they're actually doing work on the collection, but not every day, all day. And then also to have a separate area for incoming specimens, because they shouldn't come into the storage area before they've been decontaminated. So you don't bring them in, process them, and then send them out to the freezer because they've already brought pests in. And then find another space to store all your boxes and papers and foam and whatever else. So those are what's needed to meet the standard. So that can be quite a big thing to deal with. Are there consumables stored in the collection room? The field equipment, you've got living plants, living animals. So some people might keep their cockroach colony to feed something, and it's there in the same storeroom. And then obviously to meet the standard, you've got to get rid of that. Okay, so you can see how every single block I've put something in there. And so some of the information about the shelves and the cabinets you'll take from assignment 9. Go and check, count. So that's the other important thing, is to know how many. So when you look at shelves or cabinets, you can say we've got 50% of the collection is metal, 50% are wooden cabinets, and that's about how many of each. So you might have to do a count. And if you've got shelves, you might have to measure how long is that shelving and how many shelves are on that row of shelving. So that's your quantities, how many. And that's important because when you want to do costing or understand the scale that you need to deal with, then you need those quantities. There may be other challenges. So any other challenges with your shelves or your cabinets? Do they close properly? If they're cabinets, are they well sealed? Are they open? And does it allow dust to settle on things? Or what would be needed to meet the standards? So the standard is that everything should be metal. And so you might, if you've got all wooden cabinets, you may need to meet the standard, you'd need to replace all of them. That might not be feasible, but it's just about putting it down. Check, are your cabinets or drawers off the shelving, is it raised off the ground to prevent flooding? If it's not, then you'd need to try and get it elevated. Do the things closed properly, so sealed properly. You should have some kind of a reverse seal. And then, are there any problems with opening your drawers? So a lot of institutions do have metal cabinets, but then they have wooden drawers. And I think that to get metal drawers, we found, is just about impossible. And so it's almost acceptable to have wooden drawers for your, especially for insects. Okay, then do you keep any specimens in boxes? What kind of boxes are they? How are they arranged on the shelves? So maybe you don't have things in boxes, maybe they're just arranged on open shelves. So if there's loose specimens, how are they sitting on some kind of a foam? Are they touching other specimens? So it's about looking at those. Can you easily reach all your specimens? Do you have to move something to get to something else? Do you have to unpack a box to get to something at the bottom? And then your materials, so are they archival paper? Your paper, your boxes, your plastics, is it all archival? And maybe you just don't know. And then what you're going to do there is just say, we don't know. We don't know what this box is made out of. If it's just an ordinary box that you get from the supermarket, it's unlikely to be archival. And you can just say then, like ordinary grocery boxes from the supermarket, we're using those, or custom-made boxes, but we don't know if it's acid-free archival quality. And then look at dust and dirt protection. So what happens if you've got specimens, and it can be skins, it can be skulls sitting in the open on shelves? Do they accumulate dust? So do they get covered in dust? Do you have any kind of protection for them? So the standard in the manual, so go back to the manual and look at what the standard is there, that they should have dust sheets over them. So some kind of a covering to prevent dust buildup. And then cushioning. So if your specimens are sitting, even if they're in a drawer, like if you've got skins in a drawer, they should have some kind of cushioning padding that they sit on. Otherwise, they get jarred and they'll break, especially if they're delicate bones or skins, mammal skins with little tiny feet and little tiny tails. They can get damaged and broken. So look at that. Look at if there's any risk of damage from pressure or breakage. Okay, then we look at the big risks, and this is about pests and mold and dust. So anything coming in before it goes into the main storage area should be decontaminated so that how is this dealt with? So we're asking you where, what's the process? How do you decontaminate? Where do you decontaminate? And do you need to change anything? And then do you monitor pests? And so if you say, yes, we put out sticky traps in the collection room, how many do you put out? And how often do you check them? And where do you record the results? And then how do you treat any infestation? So if you find pests in your sticky trap, what do you do? Do you just freeze a drawer or a bundle of herbarium specimens? And so the quantities here may be not, it's not applicable. So then you can just put NA, not applicable, in there. And fumigation. So do you have fumigation? And who does it? And do you know what pesticide they use? So all of that needs to go in. And so quantities here, what you can put is how often is it done? So you could say a whole storeroom done every 3 months. That would be your quantities. And any challenges, any special measures. So your challenges might be that we have to procure a service provider to do it, and there can be delays in that, and that means that the collection isn't fumigated sometimes for 6 months. You could say that you have to evacuate the whole building when you need to do fumigation, and that can create problems. So are there any challenges related to your fumigation? And any other pest management processes? So do you do anything else to prevent pests? What's the most likely source of infestation of pests? So where do the pests come from? Where do you think they come from? Is it through open windows? Is it through people coming in? Is it through new material? Do you think it's historical? So the eggs somewhere in your cabinets? Because everything else is well sealed and well managed, but somehow you seem to still get infestations. Where could they come from? And then have you identified any pests? Do you know if any pests have ever been identified there? What are they? How did you identify them? And then how many pest infestations have been recorded in the last 5 years? So if there are no records and you have no idea, you can just say unknown, uncertain, and you can put that along the whole thing. But your notes here, so if you don't know, if there's no records kept and you have no idea, then you can say under notes, any challenges, you can say that there are no records available, no records have been kept of past pest infestations. And then mold. So do you check for mold in the collection? How do you do that? How often do you do it? And are there any challenges? So, you know, you might need to actually do a physical inspection of the whole collection, and it might be part of your pest management. So you check every drawer, check every cabinet for any signs of mold or pests, signs of that. And do you treat mold? How do you treat mold? Some people treat it with brushing it out with some ethanol. Different people have different methods, but how do you do it? And then who's responsible for pest management for the collection and for the building? Might be two different people, might be the collection manager, the curator, I don't know, but it's very important. And then how often are specimens dusted? So you might not know. And who's responsible for cleaning the specimens? So is it just the general cleaning staff, or are people properly trained, or is it the technicians? So who would go around and clean anything sitting on the shelves, cleaning the drawers of insects, so maybe they get wiped, each drawer? Who does that work? And if you don't know, then you just put unknown, uncertain. But do ask around. If you're not sure, ask around. Because if you put unknown, unsure, uncertain for everything, then it's not going to be a very comprehensive assignment assessment. And then the material used for labels, what is it? What material? Is it skin parchment? Is it card, standard card that you buy at the stationery store? Is it special acid-free paper? And then how are the labels printed? So are they handwritten? Some of them might be handwritten. Say how many? About half the collection, or all the old specimens from before 1980 are handwritten labels. Are they written in pencil? Are they written in Indian ink, ballpoint pen? What are they written with? And then the later ones might actually be printed with computer. Is it special ink or just standard print, laser printer? And then what's the state of the labels? So if you go and look around, can you see problems with the paper, and can you see any problems with the print? And about how many problems are there? So it might be 1 in every 100 specimens, the paper's disintegrating or the print is fading. So quantify it, say about how many. And do you check the state of labels? Do you have a routine? When did you last do that check? And have you had any major relabeling projects? So where you've said we're going to relabel all the specimens in the collection, or we're going to relabel all of those that have bad labels. So if you know if there was any major relabeling. What was done, how many were done, were there any challenges or anything that happened? Check, here in the last column, what's needed to meet the standards. So go to the manual, look at what the standards are, and then see what you would need and how many. Would you need to relabel the whole collection to meet the standard? Would you need to reprint all your labels? What would need to be done? Maybe you just need to implement a monitoring, a checking program. And then this section here, this monitoring program. So this is, do you have these monitoring programs? Do you have a monitoring program for pests or for mold? Yes, no. If it's yes, then make notes. So yes, we have a regular every 3-month checking of the whole collection, or 50% of the collection. We have sticky traps. We have a system of recording all the results. Do you have a monitoring program for your dust in the storeroom? So does somebody go there every 3 months, every 6 months, every year and check and record? And then the same with labels. Do you have a program where you check the quality of those labels? Do you have and then your humidity, temperature, do you have loggers in your storeroom that record humidity, that record temperature? And do you keep records of that? So that's monitoring. And then the fire suppression system, does somebody come and check it every 6 months or every 3 months or every month, do a check on whether it's working properly? So if you have no there, then your notes will be, you need to document. You need to develop documents to say what needs to be done, and you need to implement those monitoring programs. And then this next section is all about the documents. So do you have SOPs, so step-by-step process to follow for your pest monitoring, for treating pests or mold, for decontamination of incoming material, for production of labels that tells you this is how you make labels, this is how you attach labels. If you're replacing labels, this is what you do. You know, what do you do with the old label? And then temperature and humidity monitoring and the response. So it should tell you what to do, how to record it. What do you do if you find that the temperature is fluctuating? Who do you call? And then for cleaning specimens and storage infrastructure, your storeroom. So how do you clean? How often do you clean? It should be documented. So there may be all of those that need to be, those SOPs need to be developed. So you might know very well what to do because somebody else taught you, but there's no record of that. And now the standard is that it should be written down. And then there should also be standards documents. So what's the standard for your temperature, humidity, ventilation, fire suppression, and prevention? So that standard would be what temperature should it be set at? What should your humidity be? So it might be, it has to be under 30% humidity or under 40%. That there must be a ventilation system, that there must be a gas fire suppression, because you don't want water fire suppression system. You want some kind of a gas or dry chemical. What kind of drawers, what kind of shelves? So this is the standards, what kind? How do you know what to buy or use or set? So that's, I mean, there's a lot to complete here. It's a matter of working through the whole collection. You might need to ask other people, but it's about this you can't do sitting at your desk. You have to go and look and check and count and record and go to the manual, look at what the standards are and see what you would need to meet those standards. Okay, so that's the first option. I don't know if anyone's got any questions or any difficulties that they've had with completing that template. No, Brendani, you've done it?
Yes, I've done it.
Okay.
Yes.
And were there any problems with completing the whole template?
No, I didn't experience any problem. It's just that some of the quantities and the labelings and so on, I haven't counted them, but I saw that some have problems, and like where they use papers, it's under wet collection because it's in the same room. So others I've already written at the wet collection. It's not belonging to this one.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. So, you know, something like those labels, I mean, if you've got 10,000 specimens in your collection, you're not going to have time to go and count every single or check every label to see whether it's handwritten or typed or what kind of paper. So it's really just to get an estimate there. And then you can always say approximately, so about how much do you think is handwritten in pencil, about how much is, you know, and you can put a percentage. You can say about 30% of the collection has handwritten labels, about 20% of those are pencil, and about 10% are ink. And the rest of the collection has labels with printed, with print, the computer generated labels, printed labels. So you can estimate when it's just too much to count. Okay, let's hear from KZN Herbarium, Sanela Siwe.
No, we've had no difficulties, Michelle. Everything
Okay.
is built in.
Okay, all right. That's fine. I don't know if anybody else has attempted this already.
I'm sure. I'm just curious in terms of those labels that are handwritten but also have a computer generated label. Where would you put those in terms of? Yeah.
Okay, so again, so you can document that. So you can say about, you know, maybe it's about 10% of the collection has both handwritten and computer generated labels. So just write that down. I mean, that may be quite common where people have like the original label and then they've had a big relabeling program and they've put new labels on. So that's a good thing. It means you've got double labeling. So if one is lost or fades, there's another one there. So that's a good thing. You just record it. So it's telling the story about what your collection, what state it's in.
Thanks for that, Michelle.
All right. Okay, so it seems like this assignment, it just takes time to work through everything and to check against the manual to see what does the manual say we should have. Okay, and then a lot of this information will be pulled through into assignment 14, where you have to develop your collection management curation plan, because you'll see all the things that you need to do and you'll pull that into the plan and prioritize which are going to be done. So it's going to be difficult to do assignment 14 if you haven't done this assessment. So that's something to think about. You might end up, if you're doing assignment 14, you might end up having to go and do quite a lot of this work anyway, to go and see what needs to be done. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly see something chat. Okay, Mzwaya says, is assignment 14 compulsory? Is it compulsory? I think I said it was. We'll have to check. I don't want to say something that's not what was in the document. We'll confirm. I think it would be very good to do assignment 14. We'll check, and we'll confirm. Okay, so the SIRE people are working as a group, and they'll decide when they get together. They think they'll do option 2, right? So we'll see. So let me just here again. Okay, so option 2 is this development of an integrated pest management plan. So you need to remember that integrated pest management is moving away from using pesticides. So it's not just about documenting how you manage pests in your collection and saying we have service provider that comes every 6 months and they fumigate the whole collection and this is how we fumigate it. This is saying, how do we manage pests in overall and use pesticides as little as possible and hopefully get rid of them entirely. Use other methods of controlling pests. So there's a lot of different resources out there. And again, when you develop your integrated management plan for pests, you need to do it in the context of your institution and your, it's difficult to do it for one collection, but you won't be able to just take somebody else's plan because it might not work in your institution and for your collection. So there are some guidelines in the manual and there are guidelines online. So different institutions globally have different resources to use. And you can use those and go through them, but think about for my collection and for the number of staff that I've got and the building I'm in, what would I need to do? I've said here you can use a table in Word, or you can use an Excel spreadsheet, or you can just write a Word document, but you must have the following sections. So there's 5 sections that you must have. So the first section that you're going to write about is preventing access to the collection by pests. So this means that you have to go and you have to look at how are pests getting into the building, and how are they getting into your storeroom? So where could they be coming from? And what do you need to put in place to prevent them from each of those? So this can be like a list of places where they're coming in and a list of mechanisms to stop them coming in there. So you've got to go and have a look, see where they could be hiding, as well as coming in. So are there piles of old boxes? They can be in there breeding. So it might be in your basement. It might be in the corridor. It might be under a stairwell. It might be in a corner of the storeroom. Where could there be pests that are coming in and where could they be breeding? And what steps do you need to do to take those risks away? So that's all about stopping them from coming in, stopping them from living there and breeding happily. And then the second part is about monitoring. So integrated pest management is very much about regular monitoring and checking. So how are you going to do that? It might be your sticky traps, where you're going to put them, how often you're going to check them, and when you find something on them, how are you going to identify what it is? Because that's very important. So you need to say exactly how you're going to do your monitoring. Then the third is elimination. So what do you do if you find pests or signs of pests in an insect drawer, in a drawer of mammal skins, on a shelf where you've got bones, and in a herbarium cabinet? What will you do? And remember that we want to, as far as possible, not use pesticides. We don't want to use poisons. It can be freezing. It can be something else. And then an important part of integrated pest management is training and communication. So it's critical that everybody who works in the collection, who works in the building, knows that this is how we're going to manage pests, and knows that we can't have people dumping their waste paper in the basement or under the stairs, and we can't have things just accumulating, old things that where insects will breed. we need to clear as much as we can of pigeon nests and pigeons living on the windowsills. We need to make sure that there's no overgrown vegetation. So everybody actually needs to know about this plan. How are you going to tell everybody, and how are you going to train people? And then documentation. So what forms? So there'll be forms to fill in for your monitoring. There may be an identification guide for insects, a form for when you've found an infestation and you've treated it. What are you going to document? So there's a whole lot of paperwork that's needed. So those are the sections that you have to have in your plan. And you might have a little background thing to say, this is how we currently manage pests in our collection. We put mothballs in all the drawers. We use doom foggers every 3 months. We have a professional service provider that comes in and sprays methyl bromide everywhere. That happens once a year. And now we want to move away from that. So you can say what your current state is, what you currently do, and then this is the plan for changing. I did give some online resources. There's others as well. But let's just have a look. I think they're very useful. Here we go. So this, it's the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology, and this is their integrated pest management program. So this is for the whole museum. So yours might be a lot more focused, but you can look at this as a guideline and see. So they have some background. What's the purpose of prevention? So they want to prevent pests. It's not about eliminating pests, it's preventing them from coming in. And then they've said, where do the pests come in? What are pests attracted to? So they know paper packaging, plants, carpets, any old paper, wood furniture, and food stored in the building. So those are your things to target, that you know they're going to come for the pests. And then they've got their natural controls, policies and procedures, mechanical controls, and techniques to limit pest habitats and close off areas where pests enter the museum. The one is changing your practice, the way you operate. The other one is putting in controls. So they're cultural controls, so inspect for pests, and it's about how to do that inspection, how to make the museum less attractive for pests. And you can go through this and see which ones would be relevant for your institution. Are there some things that are here that are not relevant, or some things that are not here that you would need? But it's a very nice example of an integrated pest management plan. You know, so what are you monitoring to do what? What's the purpose of monitoring? And are there different types of monitoring? Yes, so maybe you have your sticky traps, but you also do visual inspections of a sample of the collection or the whole collection. So a lot of the information that you need to know for integrated pest management is actually in this document. And yours might not be this is long. You might want to make it a bit shorter, but if you're serious about going the route of integrated pest management, it's worth developing a document like this. They tell you about, this is the detail, so inspecting and treating. So where do you do the inspection? And then it's all the details of your housekeeping, what can't be lying around, your proper storage. They say data loggers. So they've put the collection, so the temperature, regulating temperature is also a really important part of integrated pest management, because insects like damp, warm places. So pests are going to be, they're going to breed and be attracted to any place where there's high humidity and high temperatures. And so a lot of these institutions keep the temperature very low and they keep the humidity very low as well. And that helps to regulate pests. Yeah, your air conditioners or your ventilation ducts can also be a source of pests. We'll go through this. So their doors, door sweeps. So that's the thing at the bottom, like a flap at the bottom of the door so that nothing can come under that door. Every year they do a window inspection to check that the window is sealed properly, nothing's coming through there. They do like a thorough inspection of everything. So the specimen cases, check if anything's damaged or deteriorating in those cases, so if they seal properly. They've got the whole insect trap protocol, 1 trap per specimen case. That's a lot. Door to skull room, main doors to the 3rd gallery. So exactly where are you going to put your insect traps? Because it's really important to put them in places where you want to check if insects are coming in. So I strongly recommend that you go through this document if you're interested in doing that assignment. If you want to keep it a lot simpler, no, I don't know if I've still got it open anyway. So there's 2 other online links there in the guidelines for the assignment. The one just gives you a much simpler overview of integrated pest management. And the other one, there's a lot of information about those different steps in integrated pest management. So I think the important thing if you do this assignment is you're going to have to do quite a lot of research about what's needed and what level of detail and how do you do integrated pest management. So the information is all there, but you're going to have to look at it, read it, think about what's relevant, and put that into a document. So it is quite a lot of work. Okay. Any questions? Anything else? Any other comments, concerns? For this one, I would definitely say that option 1 is the simpler. Option 2 could be simple if it's a simple building, a simple collection. If it's just a few people and the building is quite new and the pest entrance places are well managed. If you've got a big old building where you've got a kitchen and you've got people in and out and doors open and pigeons and plants and material moving in and out the whole time, then developing an integrated pest management plan can be quite a challenge. Okay, so it doesn't sound like there's any other questions. If you can also put them in the chat box. We'll confirm about assignment 14. I can actually have a quick look now. It would have been in the guidelines that fully circulated. I don't think it says that it's compulsory. Let me just check. Yeah, it doesn't say anywhere that I can pick up that assignment 14 is compulsory. So if you really don't want to do it, then you don't have to do it. I think it's a very good exercise to do, but if you strongly oppose, then it's not compulsory. Okay, so tomorrow we've got one tutorial, and that will be on assignment 12, which is accessioning and deaccessioning. And then we've got 2 on Friday. So the last one. Okay, so tomorrow we've got at 9 o'clock again, and we've got assignment 12, and we've also got in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, assignment 13. And then on Friday in the morning, we've got assignment 14. And on Friday afternoon, we've got an open session. Any questions you've got about the portfolio, about how the portfolios will be assessed, what do you need to submit, what's compulsory, what's not compulsory, any problems you've had with any of the assignments. It's just an open session. I'm not hopefully going to have to talk too much. It'll be questions from the groups, from you people, and we'll answer those questions. So that's on Friday afternoon. And that'll be the end of the tutorials, and then the deadline for assignment 8, 9, and 10, if you want input on them, then the draft must be submitted by the 15th, which is next Thursday, by the end of next Thursday. And then if you want input on number 11, 12, 13, 14, the deadline for the draft is mid-January. So, but you don't have to submit if you don't want feedback. If you're happy with what you've done and you think it's fine, then you're just going to submit everything at the end of February. Okay, so nothing else. I think we can close the tutorial. Thanks for those people who gave us some input. I hope that you will manage to do very well in this assignment. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.